Oh,
how's she
new
going?
room? Where is he?
What's going on, boys?
Is this the panic room?
Are you in the study?
I'm in my office, but Jack said I'm not allowed to have the picture in the background, so I had to.
You don't have to listen to him.
Had to adjust. So I'm sitting at the edge of my desk. So it's got.
Gotcha.
I've got this TV.
Oh, hey.
That's a TV. Actually, you get pictures. You get there, and then some masks and stuff.
High tech.
That was the 2024 Dad of the Year. Is that what you just got the hardware there?
Oh, I wish.
So
mad at me right now. I took their screens away. So.
Oh, that's a good move at the start of summer. Set the standard.
Yes,
set the standard.
Exactly.
Here's my cutthroat analogy of the Flames and Rasmus Andersson. See, no one wants to. You sign him to the 8-year extension.
Yeah.
Give him the number he needs to get to. And then you trade his ass immediately. Because he's only got a 6-team no trade clause for this year. Right?
And then you get the big return.
And then I get the big return from Kenny in LA.
So, but he's got the 6-team no trade for this year, correct?
For this year.
So you sign him to the extension when and let him play this year?
No, right away.
No,
you sign him now
because
it's past July 1st. You sign him to his 8-year.
Chit chat with Kenny. You get Kenny, what are you comfortable paying this guy?
$9 million.
Okay, so Kenny's like, yeah, we'll give him 8 times 9 for sure. And then you say, what about a no move clause? And Kenny says yes or no, or maybe it's a 10 team, and you yeah, Rasmus, you agree to this? Yes. Well, you're gone.
But is LA on his no-fly zone right now?
We doubt it. It would be hard for a 6-team list.
If you were putting together a no-fly zone, would LA be?
Six is not a lot of teams.
Not a lot of teams. You're right. I would have to think. Have you guys guessed the teams? Like, would it be
Columbus,
Winnipeg,
Ottawa,
Columbus,
Edmonton,
Ottawa?
That's
Edmonton.
4.
Columbus, Ottawa, Edmonton, Buffalo,
Buffalo 5, Winnipeg.
I don't know.
I would be surprised if it's LA, but
thing is would $9 million get it done if he gave Cody Ceci 4.5 times 4?
Well, this is part of the issue we're having is we're going down Kenny's list of accomplishments this spring.
Have you ever had a fire where you ran out of wood and you just burnt $25 million in the fireplace instead of any lumber? Because they might have done that in LA this past 3 days.
Well, you didn't think Brian Dumoulin was
and CC and Anton Forsberg.
Hey, you know what, James? It's the way the game is going. Less youth, more.
I'll be honest. I didn't have a problem with Forsberg because I think, what was it, 2.5? That's not a lot for a guy who can give you. If Darcy Kemper has an injury, I don't think they've got much depth there. So 2.5 for a backup when Kemper's making what?
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So
it's the net. It's not.
I'll leave the Forsberg one alone. Yeah, I mean, who was it? Appleton? No, Armia.
Yeah.
Perry,
Armia, Kuzmenko, Dumoulin, and Ceci.
Perry.
Kuzmenko. I mean, Kuzmenko played well for them. They needed the right shot on that power play. I don't know what the number was at
4.3. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, he was fine. They already know what they have in them. But I thought they got a little bigger. They got slower and older. Like
yes,
that's
much
kind of
older.
what they did, really. You know, it wasn't. Now, I will say LA is a very good team the way they're constructed. These are all, we'll call them bit piece signings. Problem is you're using a lot of money to have those bit piece signings. And I would argue, Pinder, you could probably do the analytics on this. There's a lot of guys that played in the league last year that don't have contracts, right? So now we're going to go through this window where either guys are going to sign for pennies on the dollar, or we're going to go into PTO season.
Yeah, PTO season pretty quick.
So PTO. Now you might see a rash of signing near the end of August where teams start to go, okay, we don't really, I've slept on it. I really don't like this, or I don't like that. Or maybe they get into training camp and they don't like the development of a young guy. The kid shows up to camp and you're like, this guy. But I think there is going to be a rash of PTOs. And, I think a lot of managers have left themselves open for that type of season where their team isn't constructed yet. They're not done yet. And you're going, okay, let's wait till October. And I would argue there's teams that I think that they will be complete in like December. and into January, where they've accrued some cap space and they've allowed some of the young guys or some guys that want to push through, and not everyone's going to hit. So they're going to go, okay, this guy's not going to be a guy. We got to go and get somebody else. And then we will understand who's selling, who's buying. Like, because right now, I think I've said this on your show before, outside of Pittsburgh, I guess, but Pittsburgh's still buying players and signing and stuff. Like, what team is rebuilding? I'm not saying what team should be rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
What team? Everyone wants to get better. Chicago wants to get better. San Jose wants to get better. They're not going to be a lot better, but they want the rebuild to be over. Like, I don't know. Is there a team that's put their hand up and said, we need McKenna. We need, we're going to go after Mickey's kid in the next 2 years.
It's still Chicago for me. Like, they've added some mid guys, but outside of Chicago and Pittsburgh trying to go backwards, you're right. It's 30 teams trying to get better. So Anaheim will be better. San Jose will be better. Columbus thinks they can be a playoff team.
So there is going to be some teams that are going to have that reset. And by November, you're going to go, that's a pretty darn good player playing on that team that is going to, they're going to flush the season. Like, Rhett, you were right. I still owe you cheese toast. But Nashville was ready to reset their season a lot sooner than other teams, okay? We had Barry Trotz on our show, and he was like, yeah, sometimes legacy players don't settle in right away. Took them a while. I might even, retool and go right back at it again this summer and try and build that team out. And then Roman Josi, I don't know what's wrong with him. I think it's a disorder or something like that. I think he's sick, but I hope he's all right. But I look at it, there is going to be one or two of those teams that right now are selling to the fan base, selling to ownership and that. Like, I'm going to grab these players and and then it's not going to work out. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have to sell, not sell the farm, but kind of bottom out. So none of those teams we've identified yet. I mean, we think we know what they are, but they're not there yet.
So apply that to the Flames trying to move Andersson here. Like, walk us through your view of the league and how this and when this happens.
Well, I mean, I wish it would happen sooner than later, because you might be able to get what Rhett's talking about. You can get a full season out of him, and then he can get into his new environment. And if he likes you, he either extends with you or I don't think he's extending. Now, maybe there's a sign and trade that he wants to go to. I don't know what team he would covet. That's the thing.
Vegas is the word.
Okay, but yes, you can. That's once the LTIR kicks in for Pietrangelo, correct?
You can go 10% over. I don't know where their cap's at, but Vegas is the preferred destination. That's what LeBron was reporting on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that too at the studio and all that, but at the end of the day, just because it's the preferred, like, what's Vegas got that you would covet?
They don't have a lot. They've moved a lot of their first and prospects.
If you're Connie and you're sitting there going, great, love to move you to Vegas. Who in that early 20s that is an up and coming player that am I going to get? To replace
Connolly. There's no one there.
Yeah, they've traded them all. I think every first rounder they've had, they've traded.
That's what I mean. Like, Vegas doesn't have the currency to get him. Now, you might be able to be creative and trying to create a three-way trade somewhere and bring in.
But how much? Okay, sorry, I'm interrupting you, but because I agree with everything you're saying, and I bitched about this because I go back and forth. Being a player, you try to be on the player's sides, but at some point it gets to be too much. We got to cater to this is the one and only place we can trade this guy now. Like, come on.
No, I agree, and you know what, Boston. I wouldn't say they got lucky. Marchand wanted to go to Florida. They got a second rounder that turned to a first. Mm-hmm. So they got a first rounder out of Brad Marchand. And, he wanted to go there, and they did the captain a favor type of thing. In the end, I think you show loyalty to Rasmus only to a point. This is a business. Craig Conroy's trying to make his team better. Now, if you look at the way the team is constructed right now, they're a knee injury to Wolf away from taking a step back.
Yes, high pick. Yeah.
Right? Like, high pick. So, when you're looking at it, if you're Connie, you've got Andersson, that's a ticket. You've got Kadri that might have some mild, interest throughout the league. I would say probably stronger than mild, but Nazem, I think, has done a good job in Calgary, but for all accounts, he likes the city and, hasn't asked for a trade or anything like that. Who else do they have?
Blake Coleman.
Blake Coleman would be an interesting
Great
one.
left guy that's won. Great checking winger.
Yeah, plays in your top 9.
We saw Tampa bring back Gord already. Like, he was part of that line. That's the type of trade you could make. That Seattle did well in that deal.
Yeah. So, but those are kind of in-season ones. Like the Andersson one, I still feel like you could. Like, the one thing I think that is a balancing act for Connie is he's probably got to tell his management group and tell his ownership, what is the peak time to move Rasmus? Is it now? Is it at US Thanksgiving, or is it at the trade deadline? That's really what he's probably got to figure out, because the draft is come and gone. So, is it, unless there's a deal that somebody says, I need him right now, and I'm going to pay a king's ransom.
Is that part of the issue? Is that we're holding, what's he worth? Like, this is, it's all part and parcel, and we'll never get the information. And LA was purported to have made one hell of an offer, but he wouldn't go there. And okay, what's he worth? Are we overestimating what he's going to bring in? And if he's controlling the situation like a Hannafin, is that handcuff Conroy? Is it a learning situation where you're like, shit, I should have traded him last summer because now these guys are holding their feet to the fire? Is that a common thing? If he goes out and plays well and is healthy to the trade deadline, sure, it's going to help the cause, but is it worth the risk?
Personally, yeah. The risk is the big thing. That word's a big thing, because you're right. He goes back to get a puck and twists his knee or something. All of a sudden his season's derailed or whatever, you name it. Right. So I think the challenge is the sweet spot. If you're going to have a king's ransom for him right now, then you've got to find a landing spot where he can actually settle in, and maybe there is an extension for the new team. Or, again, without knowing the details behind the scene, that's the biggest frustrating point.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm Calgary, I'm looking throughout the league like, Bowen Byram. Like, I'm looking at a guy like that and saying, God, can he play? Would he be a guy that you covet? Do you? And the only reason I bring that up is, is an Alberta boy, technically, his dad and, Sean and all of that. I think he can be a power play guy. I think he can be obviously he's had some issues with concussions. But, when I look at it, like, Andersson probably doesn't, Buffalo would be on a no trade list for him.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Right. So
he's not extending there. Like, no one's extending in Buffalo.
Right. So that's the biggest challenge, is you're trying to find who wants him and who's willing to pay the most. And then you try and, coax him and say, this is best for your career too. Keep in mind, like, this guy might have a chance at the Olympics, would he not?
Yep. He was the bubble guy for Sweden last year.
Okay, and that's what Connie said last week. He's like, here's a guy, he's going to want to play well. It's a contract year. He wants to be with Team Sweden.
Yep.
The thing about it is, too, you have to weigh that. Do we trade him to one of the teams that's not on his no trade, or do we try and negotiate with a team where he would sign an extension? The thing about that's tricky is, once I'm a team that knows he'd sign an extension, well, I'm on a short list of teams where he'll go. So I can drive my offer down in terms of picks or prospects. Oh, you want the first one? Maybe it's a second and my C level prospect instead of a first and a B prospect. If it was wide open, they're just going to have to. It's kind of the shit or get off the pot. They're going to have to make a very tough decision. Yeah, because it's not going to be a distraction. It's already a distraction. It's not been a week since Craig said it wasn't going to be, and it clearly is.
It will be. I want to give Connie the benefit of the doubt. I think he's handled things pretty well for the most part. I don't know.
I don't put any of this on Conroy.
No, me neither.
I think Conroy was ready to move him, and the deal was there. And there's been deals that.
But hang on, like you said, there's just a learning experience. He went through it with Hannafin. What did he learn? Like, he might come out looking great, but he was at the deadline last year and said, "I'm not moving Rasmus." That was his chance to not have to deal with extension shit.
There's another thing too. He might have learned is Jacob Markstrom. That was another one that there was a lot going on, right?
Again, but again, all this to me goes back to Do the players have too much say in how things play out? Or is this just the way it is and learn from it?
I wish in this new CBA there would have been, you can't have a full no move.
Well, I said it the other to Drex. Why is it not instead of having the no trades, why not a movement clause? Or okay, it's $5 million for you to move. Or we can trade you, but you get an extra $5 million. And five's a lot, right? Like,
yeah.
But would you take that? Well, I want a no trade. Or if you're going to trade me, I get an extra $3 million. Because the no trades end up being nothing anyway. As soon as the team and the player establish, well, I don't like what's happening, and hey, Johnny, come into my room. We really don't want you anymore. Can we move you? Like, what do they mean?
I think I honestly, and you guys both played, so you would know better than me, but it just feels if I'm a player, I want to no trade because I don't want to end up, if I hate Winnipeg, I don't want to end up in Winnipeg.
Right.
You can trade me. That's fine. But I want to have some say over where I go.
Which turns into the baseball scenario, which is what I think is going to happen to the NHLs. You're the teams that are. Can you hear that, Jamie? We're under siege here.
Earthquake here.
They're doing construction work outside, and the building's literally shaking. So, pardon our distraction. We're starting to be a little worried that they might all come crumbling down.
The roof is going to come down, type of thing.
Yes.
Some guy in a vest will be standing there with a jackhammer.
That's exactly what's happening out there.
It's exactly
like literally.
You know what though? I see what you're saying. I look at it, Stan Bowman was asked about it the other day because he traded Victor Arvidsson to Boston. And that wasn't on his list. So he had a no move or a no trade. And he said a lot of times the players are competitive and they know it doesn't work in their scenario and they want to move on. So you work together. Because somebody flat out asked him, like, you gave no moves to all these guys you signed and now you're having to work to get out from underneath them. And he said, yes, it's a bargaining chip when somebody wants to sign for term with the organization where you want to give them some flexibility to buy a house here or stay or whatever. But he goes, in the end, if it didn't work out, and he goes, listen, we signed a few guys that didn't work out. And the only reason I'm bringing him up is because I like the philosophy that he had. He goes, the player wants to play. The player wants the best situation for them to excel if it's not in your situation. So he said, we sat down with Victor Arvidsson and said, you know what, like it didn't work out here. Where do you want to go? These are the options we have. And he goes, they worked it out. So I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to something like Rasmus is that it's hard when it's the agent doing the talking, the manager, and that sometimes the player does have to get involved. And I think it's where the relationship. I think Craig Conroy and the Calgary Flames organization, yes, I'm biased, but I think they're very classy. And I think, Craig and Donnie and now my buddy Peter Hanlon has to be included in all the management talk now. All the people involved, I think there is like a kind of happy medium where you can go, okay, these are the options we have. We'd like to move you here. We'd like to move you there. What do you make of it? And I think, unfortunately, you got to put the work in to find out what the best situation is. You're right, Rhett, that the player might just go, I don't want to go there. But at some point, the organization has to go, this is the best for us. We're trading you here. If you don't want to sign an extension, we're going to get a lesser offer. That so be it, but you are going there. And if it's not on his no trade list or whatever.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to put your business hat on and say, I'm doing what's best for the Calgary Flames. And you are not going to be a part of the equation moving forward. That's fine. You've put in your time. We respect you. We love you. But in the end, I've got to get picks, prospects, a live young prospect for you. I am going to move you to LA. I am going to move you to name a team. A team out east. I don't know. Philadelphia.
Rangers. Keandre Miller. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that ship sailed, right?
I know. I was hoping.
But there, like that's something where you look at, it's an opportunity where you look around the league and you say, okay, this is the best offer. And you're right. If you could bake in an extension, then you get more for it. But right now, I don't know. Is his value at an all-time high right
No.
now?
No, he's coming off of a year where he played
I don't
with a
even
broken
understand
leg.
what his value is. I don't know.
Like-
I mean, you think he's a top 4 defenseman making 4.5? That's
Should be quite valuable.
Sounds valuable to me. Right shot, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's very valuable because you could go through the league and he could pretty much play for every team.
Yeah.
And be in their top 4, without notwithstanding a couple
Yeah.
teams that are very deep.
Like Dallas needs a guy like Rasmus so badly, like a
Big
second
time.
pair right shot guy.
Big time.
There's not a lot of teams in the league that don't need an upgrade on a right shot defenseman.
It's tough though, because then you look at
They
a
don't
team
have
like
cap space.
LA, like they had a need, but now they've spent $6 million or $7 million on CC and Dumoulin, so they don't.
Right, but
At the deadline, they don't need him.
well, if
They've
they
spent
thought
their money.
if there was a chance to get Rasmus, you could just eat
Yeah,
one of
he's
those
basically
contracts
told.
and take more. Like it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They've spent the money.
Yeah.
They've spent the money thinking that he wasn't coming. So it's like, okay, we got to move on. Like these managers have to move on when, and build their team. I mean, you don't have to build it day one and then head to the lake. But I think at the end of the day too, you're looking at free agency. It was pretty thin. I think his value's high. Maybe I'm wrong. I really think he's a player that, can play power play 5-on-5. He's got chip to his game. Yeah, maybe it was a down year for him, but I still think there's lots there.
I think there's a great opportunity for him in a contract year to come out and have a hell of a season. As long as he stays healthy, he should be very sought at after the deadline. The problem becomes last year's the example. What happens if they're battling?
Oh, we're 8th in the West, and it's the trade deadline.
Oh, what are you going to do? You're going to move them?
Yeah. So
I remember having a conversation with a guy on this show that wanted to trade for a bunch of people and add to the depth.
Hey, if you had gone and added a 30-goal defense or forward when I said to do it, where they would have made the playoffs, they wouldn't have been tied.
The two guys beside you were ready to fight you over it too. So
they told me not to trade Rasmus last winter.
They don't know what to.
It's the ebbs and flows of the season.
But
they looped us in at times.
In hindsight, then here's the hypothetical hindsight. Should you have traded him at the deadline last year?
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. But you were in a playoff spot or close, and you went for it, and you came up short. 96.
But the thing is, and then if the return isn't there, we talked about this yesterday. You would assume it's a good thing for teams. Well, you'd have them for 2 playoff runs. Not every team operates that way. They don't want to. 2 years down, we got contracts we have to extend. So and so and so and so. All I'm saying is, if the return wasn't good, well, we trade them for a 2nd and a 5th. You'd be like, well, fuck, you should have waited till next year at the deadline.
You're right, but I think if it's within reason, they should have done it because now. I think it is a distraction. One of your top defensemen is clearly said, we have no future together. Like we're dating, but there's no future. We already know we're not getting married. This is not a long.
We'll stay together for the summer, but then I'm going to college.
I like your lake and I like your boat, so it kind of works for now.
Once the leaves start turning colors, this is over. So, like to me, this is the crucial thing for Connie here is you can wait, sure you can, but why don't you just chart a course?
That's
rather
what
than
I
say
don't think
like
the team's doing.
So rather than say, oh, but if we're good, look, maybe we do. Oh, but what if we're bad? Well, here's the thing: if you move Rasmus, you're getting worse. And then Nazem Kadri looks around and he says, "I signed here to be competitive." And then you're looking at Blake Coleman. It's like, hey, buddy, you got 2 years left. You'd be a great added contender. Like the Flames need to choose a path at some point.
Yes.
They can't just let contracts expire and move them when they become UFAs. Like you are allowed to make a bold decision that charts your course. And if you make that decision with Rasmus this summer, you're going to pick much higher in a very good draft year where you have Vegas's first and your own, and there's a generational guy at the top. Do not be afraid to make a bold decision here.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair argument because you're right. This is a generational player that's available. You look around the
2
conference and the division, teams have gotten, I think Vancouver will have a bounce back year. You look at it. So there's a team that missed that could make it. Vegas got better, obviously. I don't know what Edmonton's doing. They're not, that's still a work in progress, but they're not going anywhere. Like as far as a playoff.
Yeah, they're not a playoff team for sure.
They're a playoff team. So I mean, I'm saying that you look at it, if you believe you might not be a playoff team next year, it doesn't make sense to get 96 points again.
Right.
It makes sense to get 81 and play meaningful hockey for young players, right? Like to see if some young players can take the next step and see what you got in-house. That's why I liked Connie's deadline. I think he's like, we got young players going to battle for spots. I want to see what we have. Like, he didn't go blowing his brains out for trying to chase a $8 million free agent, right? But
the deadline or free agency day? Sorry.
No, I'm saying free agency.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
Free agency. He didn't go chasing players, right? Like, he didn't go, he wasn't in on Nick Ehlers. Not that he would have been, but I think
I don't dislike what he's done. I just think that for us, I still don't see a clear path on what they're trying to do. To me, it looks like he's trying to thread a needle, and that's a tough needle to thread.
Because your most likely landing spot is the worst place to finish.
Exactly.
Ninth in the West.
Because you're not debilitating your team to a certain extent to allow you to get you an influential draft pick. And you're probably not quite good enough to go up against the other teams in this division to secure yourself a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Like, I look at the wild card teams, St. Louis and Minnesota, and I'm like, they're quite a bit better than this team. St. Louis just had Pius Suter. Minnesota's got all that cap space they can finally use. I think Utah's better. Anaheim's better. San Jose is going to be better. Like, and the Flames basically are running everyone back, saying, "Yeah, we're a tiebreak away." It's like, right, but you were also a bad month of goaltending away from a top 10 pick that you gave to Montreal instead.
Yeah, that's the biggest wild card. Is if the goalie comes back and has an average year.
Perfect.
Right? Because if there's a reset, just not a reset, but if the league starts to figure him out a little bit, if he has a dip in his play, what does it look like? Looks a little different, right?
No,
that's fair to say.
10 pick, yeah.
Right? But that might come organically.
Yeah.
Like not like flushing people. It might just come organically going, hey, we're going to play hard. They use the term here in Toronto. The first couple of years of those young players or the core four was the dignified tank, right? It was like they were in every game, but
Babcock era.
Yeah, the Babcock era, right?
Speaking of Toronto, my thoughts on Toronto are they're not as good a team, but they're more of a playoff team. And is that what Tree's trying to do?
I think so, but I still got work to do.
I know, but do you think that they're a team that's not destined to make the playoffs?
No.
Exactly. So again, they're a team that's probably going to make the playoffs, and I think they're better situated to play in the playoffs. And
I just want to see where he spends his money. I like, yes, the Marner thing you got to deal with and all of that, and you had to deal with it. But I look at the teams that were in the finals, like they have puck moving defensemen, people that can move the puck.
Rasmus Andersson,
Nazem Kadri.
There's your guy. Like those are if you probably had a wish list for Toronto, it's probably those two guys, right?
Yeah.
Because now Naz can plug into the 2-hole and push Tavares down, or vice versa. They can,
or whatever. It's just a nice,
They would be versatile, and Rasmus would be able to run a power play that will be absent of Mitch Marner, right? And I think Rasmus is a puck moving guy where. If you look at all 6 of Toronto's defensemen, outside of Morgan Riley, who is offensive, but he's not super creative, if that makes sense.
Yep.
You've got Tanev. We all love Chris Tanev, but we know he's limited as far as on the offensive side. Brandon Carlo, same thing.
But if you spotted Anderson and Kadri into that lineup,
oh, you're a cup contender.
It looks real good, doesn't it? I mean, I think they're good already, Toronto.
So, okay, you're 100% right. Who the hell are you giving up?
I don't know.
The cap's got to work, and you got to find. They don't have the next 2 firsts.
They have
I don't know.
0 to give. They got a kid named Easton Cowan. Great. You know what? But like, even that, I think they need to rely on Cowan to probably make this team. To keep the cap in order. And you want to have young players push through.
Yeah.
But like, they've got nobody. They traded Fraser Minton at the deadline last year. That was their other young prospect. They've got nobody on defense that are really significant coming. Their goaltending is for the now. They've got a Russian. I'm not even going to butcher. I'm going to butcher his name. They just call him Artie. It's Artemov or something like that. He's like 22, 21, 22. He's good. And I think he's got a chance to be real good, but ways away. Like their cupboards are bare. And that's after years and years of going at the deadline and getting Nick Foligno and adding other players that they needed to do. They had to package a first rounder to Carolina just to take Patrick Marleau's contract away. Like there's been years of going all in at the deadline, and Trees had to he inherited that. He didn't create that. He inherited that. So you're right. If there was a wish list for Toronto, 2 players are on Calgary for sure. I don't know how you get them there. Like I don't see any currency that would make the Calgary Flames better. And
never mind the cap,
except for cap space, and the cap space is going to be tough to use because it's hard to get guys to come.
You're not okay. So does Rasmus Andersson want to go there? Does he want to go to another Canadian city, or does he want to go south of the border?
That's the thing. Is he on the no trade? Let's assume he's not. Does he want to sign an extension there? Does Tree want to sign him to an extension? Then it becomes that whole conversation again, because you're going to get less for him for the rest of one season than you would in an extension.
I look at it. Yes, it comes back to the word creative. You'd have to be super creative, but just, there's other teams that would covet Kadri and Anderson. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of teams that would.
You know what? And I don't know if it's going to work for them, but I thought what Montreal did, you know what? That's pretty bold.
Yes.
You've got 2 first-round picks. You were, again, Flame fans know how they got pretty savvy. You know what? We're going to take both of them and a player, done. We want to take the defenseman. Okay, we've got an extra defenseman. We're going to take one of our young, highly touted prospects off to St. Louis for a guy that was a rookie. Holy shit. Like those are huge moves.
Have you seen that list that Montreal has 25 and under?
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. Now they've been building this for 4 or 5 years, fellas, but it is.
But they've done the bold move of making the statement. Yes. And who's had success in this league not being bold lately? What you can say Florida was very bold. Were they not? They went and got Bobrovsky for 10, Kachuk for 100, like massively bold. Yeah. Vegas, they bold. Probably the last team that wasn't bold is Washington, just because they were built and they were like
St. Louis maybe. Yeah.
But I you're right. I read the way, if you look at it, I saw it in a tweet, but it was a reputable account. The way that Vegas has been built. It's all by like trades and like signing free agents and stuff. Like there's like one drafted and developed guy. It's Dorofeev or whatever his name is. Like everybody else has come from somebody else. Like that's been a bullish way. But you're right. You do have to be bold. I love what Montreal did. Dobson's a hell of a player, and you put him with Hudson. Like
their decor is unbelievable now, and young.
Yeah, young.
The hard part will be keeping them all together, probably.
And they proper tank boys. They had a first overall pick. That's Slavkovsky. They had Reinbacher in the top 5. Like they could have had Mishkov there, but like they committed to rebuilding. This team to this point is not yet
the cap space. The Monahan,
sure.
They took advantage of it.
But if you have to be in tank mode to do those things, this team needs to take a step further, in my opinion. Here.
Well, so I agree, and I think that's why I kind of said now. Let's park the Anderson conversation for a second. That's why I said like November is the dust will settle with a lot of teams. Mm-hmm. Just organically, it could start slow and you go, okay, we can see that you want to talk about charting a path. There's pathways that will just chart themselves where you're like, you can see where this ship is headed, right? Like, and that's where you start to, now, if you can get ahead of it and be creative and be bold, have in our lifetime, or at least in this last 15, 20 years, I don't think the Flames have ever rebuilt, correct?
They did kind of, because they had Bennett, Monahan, Kachuk. Who was the other?
Yeah, Monahan at 6, Bennett at 4.
If Bennett had played better here and guys had wanted to stay, I mean, Gaudreau was a 4th round. Like they did have, and that's when they had the most success, Noodles.
Yeah.
The fact that guys wanted to leave is what derailed that. If Bennett turns into what he is in Florida, in Calgary,
They might
Yeah.
say.
They've got Monahan, Bennett, Backlund down the middle. Who else? Like,
Yeah.
they were situated for.
Yeah.
They were built, tree built to a certain extent, and then was told we have to dismantle.
Well, they also weren't consistent enough. They never made the playoffs back-to-back years, that core, which is ludicrous. You'd have a great year, win the West, miss the next year, win the Pacific the next year. Like, it was just they were too up and down. They ran through coaches way too quickly, and obviously some of them was unforeseen with the Bill Peters shit. But that was a group that could have been good, but really they were wildly inconsistent and got to game 5 of round 2. That was their peak. That's not good enough.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Then it fell apart. Do you know what I mean? That might have been the stepping stone of.
I guess my question is: you can rebuild in a Canadian city, right?
Montreal just has.
Toronto
I think you have to.
Ottawa has. Toronto has.
Ottawa has. Yeah. Like, and you can see that there is success that has come out of it if you've done it right. Like, okay, you can throw stones at Toronto, but they've made the playoffs 9 years in a row and been a 100-point team. And, yes, the lack of playoff success, that's on them. But the team has been constructed to at least give them an opportunity. Ottawa, you starting to see the fruits of their labor. It took a little longer, but that core looks poised to take another step. And they've got, you added star power in, like Jake Sanderson for me is a star. I think Tim Stützle is a star. And then you've got a real good supporting cast. Montreal, I think, is poised to be a really damn good team. Right.
And what's the biggest piece that teams that need to rebuild miss? It's a cheeky question, and it's like, goaltending.
Well, yeah, you need a goal.
You don't win without goaltending. Guess what you got here?
You got a goal here.
You got a goalie, and that doesn't mean that you can't rebuild. And I think you should, but you've got the base to build off of. That's their best asset to take this and go, yes, because Dustin Wolf isn't going to turn into a shitburger, I don't believe, in 4 years when the rest of those kids finally start to show that they're right. And now you got a guy in your back end that's saving your ass on the days that you have off. Like, the one piece that all the teams want is the goaltender to take them over the top. The goaltender's got to be good. Hardest piece to find.
Yeah, you're right. The goalie has to be good, and you need like superstar power.
Yeah, like a one.
You can't have mid-level stars. Like, you need superstar power, right? Like, that's now. I mean,
if you want to be consistently good, you can go on a 1-year run and take a stab at it with a great goaltender. It happens where guys get on a roll and they come together. I've experienced it. It does happen, but it doesn't establish a 10-year plan of consistent we're really good. And that's what we want. And that's what I keep harping on from my point of view is I don't want a 1-year run. Yeah. I don't want the song and dance. Well, you just got to get in and anything. F that. Let's be good. Let's be Tampa Bay where we're like, we're making the playoffs and we're going to be really good. And we're a cup contender every year for a decade.
Yeah, sustainable.
I want a decade of really.
That comes back to, I use this term way too much, the spine of the team.
Yeah.
Okay? So who's your number one center, your number one D, your number one goaltender, and you build out around that. That's why I thought Vancouver was in good shape for many years. Because
they might be.
You got the goalie. You got the defenseman, and I thought the forward Pettersson. Now they've wavered, but if that whole team showed up this year, healthy and playing to their ability, that's a pretty darn good team. The spine of it, right? Like, that's the biggest challenge. Is you mentioned Tampa. Tampa's got the goalie. Tampa's got the defenseman, and Tampa has multiple forwards. In point. And then Kucherov, that Gensel, you're adding for fun. And that's where Nick Paul can, sign a 7-year deal as your third line center, farther down at $3 million a year. Like, that's the way that teams are built now. They've dispersed the money a little bit better, and you have a spine of the team.
And you can say it's bold or it's mismanagement. Like, Ottawa's finally coming. Like, you have to take stabs at it. And this threading the needle that I think the Flames are trying to do is just,
well, the shoe that drops then will be an Andersson trade, depending on when that is, right?
Yeah, the sooner they do it, the more charted their path is. I firmly believe.
But that's just it. You know it's coming.
Yeah, it seems silly to delay it. Even
Yeah.
I would take 90% of the return I want to just start the process of making my pick in the McKenna year better. I don't want to have 3 months of Rasmus helping this team tread water. I'd rather take on some water and pick high.
Well, and it allows you to go. Is anyone interested in Kadri and the other? Like,
yes.
Like how?
Yes, what are we doing here?
They did one hell of a job battling and playing hard for Huska last year, and I think the coaching was good and goaltending was good, and everyone battled. Awesome. It was way better than any of us ever dreamed. But they're rolling back the same team that the year before everyone was like, well, the betting bet 360 81 and a half.
81 and a half points. That was the over under.
Right?
And
there's no star. Well, that's not true. You hope Perek, I guess.
But that's the thing. When you talk about your spine, you feel like you've got it in net. You might have it on the back end.
They're missing a young, great center. That's what they're missing, boys. They need a superstar center, and then that's a team. You can work around that.
I mean, I don't think they drafted him on Friday night.
That's probably their number 2 center.
Probably a good player.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the mix of those
kids. You got to build it out.
But I don't think.
Where's the star center? Top of the draft. That's where you get those guys.
Yeah.
And
it's rare you trade from. Like Jack Eichel was an outlier.
Yeah. It's really rare. It's Thornton. It's Eichel. It's almost never. It's a guy with a DUI. It's always damaged goods to go get a number 1 center and trade because they just don't move.
Yeah, you're right. It is. But
you know what? You seem very relaxed. You know, you're out of the season. Like there's a vibe about you right now. You know, look at you.
You know why I'm very relaxed? Because this is the last work I'm doing for the summer.
Because you're as high as a kite, or
are you microdosing?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Because there you are. You're not going to do color in Tampa Bay tonight, and then off to Edmonton tomorrow, and do an overdrive this and the panel that. Look at you.
I am. I'm relaxed. I am.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, it was a long 10 months. Like, think about it. I go September right till July 1st. And I'm pretty much, like you said, all over the map. So I am doing some self-inflicted pain this weekend, but that's, like I say, that's by choice. So outside of that,
we might now have to have you on next week.
I might need you next. What day is good?
Next Wednesday. Oh,
not Wednesday's no good. Tuesday or Thursday. You let us know.
I fly back Tuesday. I'm actually gonna be in Alberta, and then.
Cheese toast?
Look at this guy.
There might be some cheese toast in there.
See, I remember. He's just got his big birthday. Now he's coming out west. Rhett gets his cheese toast.
Boom, we love you, Noodles, and we'll have you whenever you're bored and you take that week off and you do your relaxing.
I will be on whenever you need me. My point being is that you're right. Like, I'm not chasing a clock.
Yeah.
You gotta go get groceries, you know.
We called you last week on your birthday, and there's an account on X that goes through. So here's former and current and just NHL or hockey people born on this day in particular history. It's like, oh, look, there's Noodles. And they generally throw up one of their hockey cards or a photo. And this is the one that accompanied Jamie McLennan and his birthday last week.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Look at the mullet.
Deadly.
Oh, yeah.
I said, you look like a newborn baby chick. You're all fuzzy.
I was just gonna say, like,
disoriented.
That looked like, you remember the stuff you put on your stick? It was called dry grip. That's what it was in my hair. There's no gel, no nothing. Like,
how nervous are you?
First year in the NHL. Look at how terrified I am. I'm skating around going, I am one bad goal away from being in the net, and you don't want to see that. So that's how terrified I was. But I did look pretty good, actually.
You had Richie Pilon.
Your ears and your nose never stop growing. See, my ears are about half the size right now.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't notice that. You are a bit older, hey? Those are getting Regier size. That's impressive.
Exactly. I look like Reggie there. But,
so who would have been playing in net that night? Who were you backing up?
Exy.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would. And who knows? Like, one time we were in St. Louis at that old building, like the arena. I think I've got a picture of it here in my office somewhere.
Jack won't let you show it anyway.
Yeah, we can't
Jack
be
won't allow me
endorsing
to
the
show
city
it.
of St. Louis.
Anyways, but the backup goalie had to sit behind in the Zamboni entrance, behind St. Louis's net. And we're about 10 minutes into the game, and we're losing 3-0. And Hexy, the wires cross for Hexy, and he attacks Peter Nedved.
Yes.
And I remember sitting there going, okay, this is not good. And the bench is far, far away. And I see Al Arbor like pointing to me, like waving me. And I'm like, oh my God. So the Zamboni driver just pops it open, and I got to skate out. And Cujo goes, good luck, kid. I skate by Cujo. And I'm like, thanks, buddy. I go in, and I remember things were so fast. Adam Oates to Brett Hall, one-timer.
Zing.
And I was still looking behind the net, and Holly had hit me in the shoulder. I was like, oh my God.
What a save.
Holy shit.
We ended up coming back and tying 5-5 that night. That's all I remember.
Fellas play for Noodles. We know that.
So they didn't.
They tossed him from the game. He went
Well, yeah.
crazy. He was chasing Peter Nedved around the ice.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's probably my fear was like, what's he going to do tonight? That's probably what I was thinking.
Well, yeah, you'd have to be on your bet. You'd have to be ready because it could be bad goals or just he snaps. Hey, we're up 4-0. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess I'm going in
Yeah.
because Hexy's.
He's taking his clothes off again.
Yeah.
Doing the dance.
Enough. He's had enough. Hexy was amazing, though. If you knew him, he's the exact opposite of what you'd think of. He's a family guy, mild-mannered, very quiet, very funny, like really quick-witted. But you get him near a rink, and it's like a Jekyll and you know what? He's got a little D Sutter in him. Like he's got how Daryl Sutter. It's what you see one, and then you see the other. Like that's what Hexy was like, just ultra competitive. And he taught me that. I will say this: the one thing I loved about Hexy, and I told him this last year. I ran into him in the ring. Like he taught me how to work. You thought everybody gets the NHL or gets your pro hockey, and you think you know how to work. Like it's not even close. This guy worked every day, every puck, in practice they'd score on him. He'd take the puck and fire it into the stands. He would be mad. Like he was such a competitor, and he actually like taught me how to work. Which I loved. I respected him so much for that. So love Hexy.
So when they opened those Zamboni doors, they didn't start playing Enter Sandman, have a smoke machine like Mariano Rivera when you come out.
Oh, it was like dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
The Calliope's music.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. I've never been so scared. Like that was early, pretty early in my career, I think too, because I got called up around Christmas. So the second half I spent with the team, and back then you're still flying commercial.
Oh yeah.
There was some weird stuff going on back then. I remember that particular day in St. Louis, they would bring out plated meals for you. And so it wasn't a buffet. You didn't go and get a chicken. And there was a guy carrying out like 4 half chickens on a plate. And he leaned over. I used to sit with Hexy. He leaned over to give Hexy or to give me one, and he dumped the whole chicken on Hexy. And Hexy just looked at me and he said, "You be ready. I'm going to kill somebody tonight." And sure enough, he was chasing. 10 minutes in, he's chasing Peter Nedved around. So honestly, I'll never forget that. He was the waiter, the person who was serving was so rattled.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Hexy had like this brand new suit on, and the guy just dumped a full chicken on him. It's awesome.
Well, I look forward to hearing about how your stamina is at the Stampede. Do you feel like you're confident you've got your
I don't. That's
top of
why
your game?
I've got a few meetings there, so I'm gonna maybe one night and just relax. I don't know. You know how it's like it's Frank the Tank. It touches your lips and you see what happens.
Yeah.
So,
Next thing you're streaking the quad. Yeah.
Yeah. Rhett was having a swimming contest on Canada Day in the
I won.
lake.
I was at a golf tournament in Edmonton or in St. Albert last Friday, and kind of just did a 15-minute speech or whatever, emceed, and I did a Q&A. And out of left field, because they were like, you're in Edmonton. What are the Oilers going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And you're talking. And then somebody goes, anybody got a rookie dinner story? Or he goes, what's the craziest rookie dinner story you have? I go, I got one for you. So I threw that guy right under the bus.
Thank you. They love me in Edmonton.
I couldn't remember the name of the restaurant. Was it Butterfly 8 or something?
Butterfield 8. Yeah.
Butterfield 8. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was Butterfield 11. Like I was like, because we had hats and everything from them.
Yeah.
Just,
Okay, there was a
I
dodge in
knew
there.
a guy that did a table dive that did not go horizontal or vertical.
Yeah.
Went this way, landed on it. So it didn't go well. But yeah, so I told that story. So if people reach out to you, then it's
All right. Well,
I let the cat out of the bag.
Well, you're right. You are beloved in Edmonton.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very loved. Yeah.
Noodles, appreciate you, pal.
Thanks, guys. We'll chat soon. Let me know when.
Cheese toast.
We look forward to Wednesdays. It's always kind of we got Noodles today. It's always kind of a sigh of relief. Something we look forward to, and the people love it because there's no one else quite like you.
All right. Well, appreciate it. So yeah, reach out when you, like I say, I'm available whenever. I'm always there for you guys.
Cheese toast.
Love it.
Love
See you
everybody.
guys. Have a
There
good
you
one.
go. He is the best. Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.